plugins, Mesh Edit, and Firefly, but I installed and the mesh doesn't appear as in Rhino. So I think I I'm not connecting something in the right way. Okay.
Yeah. So again, it would be great to receive your page and analyze it. Or maybe because I think that the patches that you are using is a kind of standard, right? So it receives the image and then it creates the mesh. I also was asked by emails that you have a Google Drive you had a Google Drive folder yesterday, and Maria uploaded their all algorithms. I will ask her to provide this like patches that she's written, and I will share it in our email thread, so you will be able to use it. At least like you will be able to get this pre-made page and upload your images there. Yeah, so we are live on YouTube finally. So I will just need later to edit the title of a video. So I received messages from Alexandra and Barbara also. So let's see. One sec. I'm opening Alexandra's file. Yeah, really nice. Looks cool. I will show it on screen.
I used to know the algorithm in Grasshopper because for me Maria's one was too heavy. Maybe it can help other members of workshop. So if it is useful, you are welcome to use it.
Yeah, I think it's useful. So if you can share it and share the link here in the chat, for example, so everybody can access it, can be great. So I think it's also nice. So it's creates this three-dimensional image of an object. So looks interesting for myself. Let's wait for another picture. So here it is. Saving. Okay, this is a picture from Barbara. So one sec, I will share it. So from the Barbara's picture, I see that the resolution maybe not so high as in the sample that I received from Maria yesterday. So maybe you can improve the resolution, but I'm not sure. If you use the standard algorithm, the resolution should be okay. But I see that there is a lot of square elements. This means that the number of polygons is not enough, or triangulation.
Yeah, so resolution is 100, so maybe it's too low. Should I increase it?
Yeah. If it's a base image resolution 100 to 100 pixels, it's not so much. So you need to improve it for sure. Okay. I don't know. You can try with even HD if it's slow in Grasshopper. I don't know, 300. Try to increase it by a factor like a 200 or 300. It will work. Okay. Yep. So the idea for today's work is to get your objects and create a space from these objects. So we will, as I've written in an email, we will be using two tools today: Mozilla Hubs, which is basically a browser-based virtual reality platform, and Blender for optimizing your models. So I will show you how to use these tools. And then you will have a 1 day for doing your homework. So tomorrow will be a free day without any classes. and the day after tomorrow, we will have a final presentation. Before the lecture, let me kind of briefly introduce you to Mozilla Hubs. So, yeah, so Mozilla Hubs is a browser-based platform, so you can access it from any modern browser. And because of the COVID, basically this platform grown significantly. So before the COVID, Hubs was like an unknown tool for meeting with your friends in virtual reality or in your browser. But because during the COVID, more and more people decided to go to like a virtual events, virtual concerts, etc. So people became isolated and they needed a place to hang out, to connect. As they started to use Mozilla Hubs for different stuff, like a little bit away from its core purpose, and the platform grown significantly during the last year. The user base like increased in like 10 times, I think, and it's really simple platform. So you can open a room there and hang out in this room with your friends. And the beauty of this platform is that it's easy to customize. So it's super easy to upload your own assets or upload other assets. And while you are kind of in this room, you can share a link. So I can do it in the chat. More chat. When I'm presenting, I always missing the chat window. Yes. One sec. Okay, I found it. Yeah. So and if you connect to the link that I sent you, you will appear here. You see that like you're appearing here with like a nicknames. And as soon as you enter from the lobby, you will see myself and like in this world, and we will be synchronized. So it's not just a tool to like create a virtual reality spaces. It's also a tool to communicate inside of the virtual reality spaces. And I really like the simplicity of the tool, how it's kind of, yeah. So I see the yellow build 13279 here. Hello. Yeah, and it's really a good platform to collaborate and to prototype with. Yeah, it even has a three-dimensional emojis here, so you can try. And I mean it's really maybe hard to understand right now what is the like relation between this space where we can hang out as foxes on a three-dimensional island and the modern architecture. So and because of this, I created the lecture to describe my vision of a virtual reality space and how we can use it, and how we can look forward for its evolution. So right now I will open my presentation and disconnect from this space. You can try to move there just to keep yourself familiar. Yeah, so here is a lecture. So this lecture named is the space for the many. So like a space that can include all of us, if we are like a people, animals, plants, or algorithms. So I'm doing a PhD, as I told you on the first session, in the University of Innsbruck, in the same lab as Maria. It's called Synthetic Landscape Lab, and my supervisor is the same as Maria's. It's Claudio Pasquera. And in this PG, I'm just started, so I'm just formulating my topic. I'm looking how the new technologies like a blockchain and virtual reality allow digital objects to be material, like to be physical inside of the non-physical spaces like an internet. So while we look at the internet, we are seeing that this space is basically super inclusive, right? We are here from different countries, and we believe that we are all people, right? But if someone of us is kind of a super sophisticated algorithm with image synthesis for his or her face, it will be really hard to spot, and especially for people without cameras, it's super hard to understand. Is it an algorithm that's just collecting the data, or it's a real people? You know, it's like an old joke from the early internet era that in the internet, nobody cares if you're a dog. So when you're sending your emails, if you're a dog, just pressing buttons, almost nobody cares. So the internet is like for myself, it's a ultimate space of inclusion. But to be a space, right, we need to understand how the space is formed. So what is this, like a spatial form of the internet? And while we are sitting here in a Zoom, I'm sometimes starting my lectures from a question like, what is the spatial form of a space that we are sitting in? And what do you think? What is the spatial form of this, like a Zoom meeting? How you can draw it? I don't know, on a paper, or I don't know, in your mind. Do you have any ideas? Feel free to unmute yourself and like say something. I don't know, Barbara, do you have an idea? Not really. Hassan, do you have one?
Actually, no. It's the first time I see this.
I will ask only people with cameras because I think you're most involved. So, Angel, Henry, you don't know? Okay, no. Angel. No, really? Okay. So I mean, if we, it's basically like you can start to think about the space and the spatial form of things as you are thinking about like an algorithm. I mean, because I'm a programmer, so I'm thinking through the algorithms, and in this case, I see that basically the space is formed for myself by directions, right? So the directions where I can move, and in Zoom, I almost can move anywhere. So our distance between us is 0, right? And when we are communicating, this means that we can hear everybody in any location, and this means also that the space is compressed. So we are kind of sitting in something like a black hole, compressed in this black hole, right? So there is no difference where we are. Are we in Moscow, Paris, Iraq, New York, whatever? So we are all compressed in the one object. I usually draw the spatial form of Zoom like this, so it's just a point. I think this is basically the biggest problem with our like post-pandemic communication is that we are all started to do Zoom calls all together. But in the Zoom calls, we are kind of starting to lose our body, our physical properties as a beings. And this is kind of a really strange process, because before we never experienced so many like a seated meetings in a row for such prolonged time periods. But right now, what we see is that we are sitting at these meetings over and over again, repeating the similar actions, and the setting is the same. It's like your room, your table, and so we're kind of losing the space, and we're losing the space not only inside of the internet, where we basically maybe never had it before, but we're also losing the space inside of our material world. So in material world, we're also stopping to access it, stopping to use the space for the communication. And I think this is why basically people started to look into metaverses again. So the metaverses is a kind of a search for a new space where right now mostly kids will be playing. So it's a kind of a replacement for a post-pandemic playground, completely digital. This is where is the market going right now. So people are looking for a new space for new like spatial properties inside of the internet, and they finding games. So as for Fortnite, this survival shooter became a new playground for kids. The Roblox, like a post Minecraft game, also became a new playground for them, and companies started to invest into such things, into such games, social activities, and this is how this whole idea of the metaverse looking right now. And if you look into how businesses observe the metaverses, we are seeing so they're observing it as a kind of an extension of a gaming industry, like completely digital again, networked, and marketed for specific ages and generations. But if you look into how the metaverse is defined in the Wikipedia, for example, we will see that the metaverse is a collective virtual shared space created by the convergence of virtual enhanced physical reality and physically persistent virtual space. This is really interesting. I mean, this quote has a lot of meaning in it, despite it's from Wikipedia. I think it's written from a really smart person. So I see here several interesting ideas for myself. So first, we are seeing that it's a collective virtual shared space, which is kind of works for Roblox, Fortnite, etc. But then we are seeing that it's created by the convergence of virtually enhanced physical reality, which is kind of interesting. So I'm starting, at this point, I'm starting to think, what is the virtual enhanced physical reality? So what is the physical reality kind of enhanced by virtuality? So what is this? What is this product, right? It's not a game, right? It's kind of a physical space enhanced by digital objects. And at the same time, it's a physical persistent virtual space. And this is another big topic. So what is the physical persistency in a virtual space, how it's formed? Because in digital, we believe that it always like a temporal, right? So this is why digital kind of so inviting when we are creating an object, sculpting there, for example, right? If we did something wrong, we always can kind of go back, revert. And this is kind of things that you are starting to be familiar with. And this is what makes us really soft when we are taking decisions, because everything can be kind of reverted. Even your email, which previously was like non-revertible, right now in Google, you have this like Command Z or Control Z button, which kind of stops sending it if it was sent before like 15 seconds ago. You can set it up in the preferences. So, I mean, looking at this code, I'm wondering what is the metaverse, a real metaverse, besides the gaming industry, beside like a hype of investments going into like this networked products. And I'm kind of for this vision, I always kind of like to show my students one of the it's not an early work from Keiichi Matsuda. It's like his, I think, a middle work. So he has more recent works, I think, but this one is kind of a good reference. So this is his video called the Hyper Reality, which shows how reality can be formed using digital technologies. And this is kind of shows you a way when basically a virtual enhancement, as we've seen in the previous quote, happening. So a lot of like digital technologies are overlapping on top of our physical layer, of our physical reality, and enhancing it with an information. And this vision is kind of grotesque because we are seeing a lot of like additional information, additional objects appearing on a screen. So and it's almost hiding a physical reality, right? So, but like referring to previous quote, I'm wondering what is like a convergence here. Like for me, convergence is like something more inseparable or something like this. So, and here I clearly see the layers. And in actual world, in the real life, layers almost never working because layers are, it's a synthetic concept, completely synthetic. It's like we have object one, we have object two, they're perfectly layered. But I think in a real life, when we put a layers like a virtual layer and the physical layer, they're starting to intersect like this. And this intersection happens in so many points that you cannot really separate them all together. And if you look at this video, we are clearly seeing that this hyperreality of Keiichi Matsuda, it's layered. So it contains this clear definition of a physical layer and a virtual layer. And if you move it a little bit forward, when this person became hacked and this person starting to lose her virtual layer, we are seeing how the physical reality is structured. And the physical reality here is a kind of a baseline or a base layer for virtual reality. So it contains a lot of like QR codes, or this one exactly, it's not a QR code, it's a fiducial marker, and in front of you, you see a QR code. So a lot of markers that allow the enhanced reality, the virtuality to appear. But I think this is like a clear kind of misunderstanding of how technology appears in our life. And before, we always thought that technology appears like a layer, right? When we like creating a smart city, for example, we add a technological layer on top of the city. But I think that this process is more like dark. So it's really hard to see when technology appears in a society or in a city. Usually it's a kind of inside of it already, and it's kind of moves through it. So you never kind of understanding that this object is really technological from our perspective. So I mean, of course you can understand that this iPhone, for example, is technological object, but when you look into society enhanced by iPhones, you really never observe the society as like a smart society. It's a normal for you. It's like a new normal. So and this is the process that we are living right now, right? It's a kind of what I call an abolition of physical. So as with hyperreality, we see how the physical layer became just a baseline or fundamental thing for a virtuality. The same happens with our daily life right now when we are surviving through the COVID over and over again, right? Because everybody thought that, okay, it was over, vaccine coming, all great, but now we have a Delta virus here, which is basically a mutation of a COVID. And recently Singapore created a kind of manifesto where they decide that they will live with the COVID forever. And now they're creating a new policy to kind of to be more flexible with it, right? And kind of to keep a normal life through the COVID, like it's a usual normal virus. So it's all kind of happens, but at the same time, through this kind of modifications of our social behavior, we are starting to abolish this physical activities of us, our daily routines. They are starting to mutate, the society mutate. And the whole process of this mutation, I think, even on ideological level, it's a process of a like kind of a hyper digitalization. It was happening already before the COVID, but COVID accelerated this process a lot. And I think we need to kind of rethink it, because the digital technologies, they were in our cities almost from the beginning when they appeared. I mean, when the CCTV cameras appeared, right, they immediately became integrated into cities. And in this video by Timo Arnal, I think, I don't see my speaker notes. He's an artist working with data or information. And in this video called A Robot Readable World, we are seeing how the city filled with a digital technology observe surroundings. And this is really interesting work for me. I always showing it on my lectures, because in this work we are seeing how an artist using just a CCTV footage or a debug footage from different algorithms, showing different technological elements of a modern surveillance infrastructure of cities, and this all happens while basically he just orchestrating with a music and with videos that he's showing. So it's really like a DJ set when he basically compiles the story containing different elements, different video footages, stitching it's all together and speaking about technology as a piece of art. And what we're seeing is that technology, when we speak about it as about art, it's not complex at all. So when we are using a visual objects to describe technology, we are basically lowering the language barrier to understand the technology, because the visual the visual cortex of us, it doesn't have any language barriers, right? So we cannot have a degree in computer science, but still we understand more or less what's happening on these images. And we also understand how the cities filled with such technologies like this, how they behave. And we are seeing that the city, the modern city, is not like a physical space anymore. It's an enhanced space. It's a space which is almost completely digitized, but internally. And if we kind of try to stop its digital self from functioning, we will immediately see how the city is stopping, like planes not flying, cars not moving, etc., etc., etc. And this is just a simple technology, but the complexity of this technology gained because this whole technology inside of the cities, it's working as an ecosystem. So all these small algorithms, like a person tracker, car tracker, temperature sensor, etc., they're working as orchestra all together as a living ecosystem, basically. And while we are removing something from an ecosystem, like a bird or a sensor, we are seeing how it's starting to collapse. And this is the beauty of such technological objects. They're super complex, but every atomic part of such object is super simple. And this is a kind of, I think, a really nice way to think about technology, because we used to think that technology is something complex, something that has a lot of complexity inside of it. But what if we start to think about technology that's really simple, like this is just a technology that allow a square move from this point of screen to another point of screen, or is this technology just detects faces? But then adding a lot of different technologies on top of each other, we're seeing how like a higher order technology appears. And this technology is not like a single technology anymore. It's like an ecosystem. And moreover, this ecosystem, it's intertwined with the physical world, which it scans and then make decisions for this world. So basically these two worlds, digital and physical, these two series, digital and physical, becoming completely intertwined. And they forming a single cybernetic object. And this is another video by Timo Arnal. And in this video, they're using a long exposure photography to basically capture the level of Wi-Fi signal in a city. It's also a kind of a simple example of how a low-tech technology in these projects allows you to see immaterial part of our reality. Because we, as a humans, we never kind of was designed biologically to live in a hybrid world, right? Where we have digital and physical technologies all together. So the digital was invented by us, not by our like a creator, not by evolution. Besides, in what you believe, this is kind of so we always need enhancement. We always need the bridges to access technologies, to access this like an additional layer of our modern reality. And this video, we are seeing how using basically a stick with a bunch of diodes or lamps on top of it, we are seeing how the stick plus the photo camera, which doing a long exposure photography, allow us to capture this Wi-Fi signal. And this Wi-Fi signal creates this like borders. It creates a landscape which contains from just one variable, which created, sorry, from this one variable from a Wi-Fi signal intensity. And this whole landscape is kind of created while we apply this technology. And also, we're seeing here how the photography, because basically this digital bridges stick, it's manipulated through the city, right? So basically, we're seeing how augmented reality works. So for us, the augmented reality, the extended reality, is always like we are having the computer or a smartphone, 3D camera, a lot of softwares, 3D engines to create these 3D objects, etc. But in this project, we're seeing that no, extended reality is not this is. Extended reality is basically a reality, a physical reality, enhanced by virtual object, enhanced by information, enhanced by digital layer, right? Created by a digital layer sometimes. So, but the digital layer is not a 3D object or 3D animation, just an information. It's a data that basically populates our material world. And using such tools, we are able to see this data. We are able to see the borders of this data, because this data forms a completely different landscape, which from first look is different, but at the same time it's the same landscape. And this is the things that may be hard to fit in a mind sometimes, even for me when I'm talking about this. So while we are looking at this like intersections between physical cities, digital technology, and physical world controlled or enhanced by digital technology, the question that I always ask is like, what is virtual? Right? Virtual, like when we are speaking about virtual reality, it's like we are in a completely different world. And sometimes my students saying, okay, I want to fly in this world because I don't know, in real life I cannot fly, so I want to fly. I want to abolish the physical laws, etc., etc., etc. But as we are seeing in Zoom right now, we're already abolishing the physical laws, right? We are in one point compressed in the single dot. So we are already completely virtual. I don't feel any physicality in myself right now, besides I'm an image, right, of a physical object. That's all my physicality. Here is like a virtual space. So I think that this is a really strong question. So what is the virtual and how this virtual is formed inside of our physical space? And of course, super interesting question is what is the persistence of the virtual, right? Because if it's immaterial, can it be kind of persistent? Can it be constant? So I sometimes show this quote from a Baudrillard from the Precision of Simulacra, called that territory no longer precedes the map, nor survives it. So this means that the map and the territory right now in the modern world are completely separated. And this concept was super hard for myself to fit in the head when I started to work with geographers, with urban data scientists, doing my like daily work in an urban data startup. But right now, I think I like I fully understand this quote, like after several years of thinking about it. And this quote means that the world that we are trying to describe via map, it's always a kind when we are looking at the map, it's always like a description of a world. And this means that the map is basically at some point, because the description, it can become really completely separate object, right? So the map can become a world at some point. But in my vision, maybe right now I even not kind of really with the meaning of this quote, because I think that besides the map can be completely detached from a physical world and became kind of an autonomous object which describes the world but really live its own life. I think they're still attached, but not so direct. And this attachment, it's more chaotic, so we cannot really predict how this attachment is working. And this is why I believe it's like a hybrid space that where we are living right now. It's a space where we cannot anymore separate the physical and digital tools, or we cannot separate a digital map that you're seeing on your phone from a physical world. They are now intertwined. And there is a good illustration of this concept of like a surrounding space and how the space basically affects us, how the maps affects us, how we observe the space, and how we can then draw this map of a space while it's all intertwined. It's a Claude Shannon experiment called mouse maze, I think. So, and this is one of the, if you Google it, you will find this like a first example of AI by a pioneer of digital, Claude Shannon, which basically invented the bit. So he's a kind of father of a digital. So he invented a base unit and of course a lot more. But in this experiment, he created a maze, and the mouse. And mouse was smart enough to find an out from this maze, so an exit. So every time when he put the mouse into the maze, mouse every time found it exit. But the problem with this experiment was that at the time when Claude did this experiment, it was super hard to put all the computing powers that analyze the maze inside of the mouse, right? So people started to ask how it's working, and this is where critique began. The critique began when when people understood that mouse was super dumb object. It was just like an object completely controlled by its maze. So basically, the landscape that Claude created, it formed the behavior for the mouse. It's completely controlled it, and the whole computation was done by the landscape. Instead, it was done by the mouse. So in this experiment, we are seeing how surrounding around us is basically forms our behavior and how it creates basically a world that we live through. And the same happens with the digital technologies right now. So while we're believing that we are living in like a perfectly physical world, at the same time, this world is constantly affected by digital technologies, and our behavior there is constantly affected by the decisions that the digital technology is doing. And if you look at how, like, as a modern cyborg is looking, so what is a modern cyborg? You need to look not for like a movies where you are seeing this like a cybernetic objects, people like people, but they are robots, or sorry, robots like people like robots, etc. No, you can try to look at the Uber driver. And the Uber driver is, I think, for myself, at least, it's a really like one-to-one example of a modern cyborg, because this person is completely ruled by an algorithm, completely ruled by a software, and I mean, and this is why the transition of ride-sharing companies like Uber, Lyft, etc., to autonomous cars is super obvious, because these companies already basically creating autonomous cars, but with a human component, with a little bit of flesh and bones. But in the future, of course, this component can be replaced because the algorithm already in a loop. The algorithm already creates the behavior of this entity, of this object. And this behavior is completely, right now, it's cybernetic. And even if people will be removed, this behavior, I think, will be still cybernetic, because there will be a loop between natural environment, which still will be natural because car will not running through the simulation, it's running through the physical world, and it's kind of receives the information from the physical world and then reacts to it. So it's a kind of cybernetic thing. And so while I'm thinking about like how this two things like physical and digital again non-separatable anymore, I want to show you some like projects as a reference. And this is a project Moscow Studies Dissolution by Ephemer One studio. So Ephemer One is a studio run by my wife, Daria. And this is a studio basically which is focusing on a virtual reality architecture. And in this project, Daria scanned as an element, a part of the theater in Moscow. It's Electro Theater Stanislavski, really a kind of maybe non-mainstream theater in Moscow, but well-known and really nice. But the interesting thing about this project is not like a theater or that it was done in a theater. The interesting thing about it, how we scanned it. So for scanning of this project, Daria used like a cheap LiDAR scanner available in the modern iPhones. I mean, the modern iPhones, the last generation is not cheap, but the cost of like ownership of a LiDAR scanner became relatively cheap because you're buying your new phone or a new tablet, and it's already equipped with a LiDAR scanner. And in this project, she scanned the whole environment by this scanner. And usually when people scan something through the photogrammetry or through the LiDAR, they try to keep the resolution. But here we are seeing how the resolution is kept like this, like it's just a resolution of this cheap LiDAR scanner installed inside of the iPhone. And we are seeing how the space that is scanned starting to like a crack. And this is a really nice effect for myself, because we are seeing how the physical space represented through the digital technology basically is not a physical space anymore, right? And I think this is really a big mistake that we are doing all the time with the new technologies, that always when we kind of create a virtual reality display, for example, or Google's, we are wanting that everything that we see in this display, it will be completely like real, like we will be in a virtual reality. So in a virtual thing which looks completely like reality. But the problem is that virtual reality is always virtual. So it's always kind of a shot of a physical reality transferred into the digital space, right? And the shot is happening at the resolution and at the speed that is possible with the current hardware. And the hardware, or like a sensors, scanners, data storage machines, databases, etc. This hardware is, I mean, it's not growing as we hoped for, and this is why our expectations for a quality of the virtual objects is kind of always. I mean, we are always unhappy as a consumers. But I think that's the problem, how we see it, how we see how these objects are appearing on our screens. And right now I'm reading a book called Simulation and its Discontents. And in this book, it's a book about like a project in MIT where they integrated in various departments in 80s computer simulations. And departments like physics, for example, was completely against computer simulations, because for physics, for physicists, computer simulation was a kind of completely against for what they like live for, what they work for. It was against a reality. So if you can go outside of your like laboratory and see how the rock falls into the ground, right? Why you need a computer simulation? So in this book, it's really interesting how we are seeing that how different departments are accepting computer simulation from a different angle. So for architects, first it's like a layer of a creativity. So they're starting to experiment with it, and it's like a completely. And so they dive into it. So it sucks them inside it, and they're like diving through these simulations. And we're seeing that a lot of modern architectural students are doing same in Grasshopper. So they take a definition, start to manipulate it more and more and more. Time passes, things changing. So for them, it's like a creative medium, but at the same time, it limits them. So they kind of cannot go beyond this sometimes because they don't understand an algorithm. And in MIT, some physics departments, they started to use the computer simulation, but only with following one rule: that students will be learned not only will learn not only how to use computer simulation, but also how computing works. And this is really interesting because at some point it seems super hardcore that students are just, I mean, they not just need to learn how to use the simulations, they also need to learn how display on computer works, what is its resolution, what is a pixel, etc., etc., etc. But at some point, it's understandable why they're doing so, because they want the student to understand that the computer simulation is a kind of a projection of a physical process, and this computer simulation happens basically in the computer world, where the pixel, right, is a base object. And sometimes when you draw something, right, and you are in 80s on a super low res display, this means that the error, even when you draw something, when you plot a line on a display, is super high. So as a physicist, you need to understand this, and you need to be able to kind of project this error into a real life, into a real world. So as we see in this project, using like a LiDAR for transferring a reality into virtuality, right? Into or basically this is a process that I call datification. It's not my term. I just read it somewhere. So the datification, how I call it, is basically the process of extracting the data from a physical reality, or not just a physical object, but also from a process. Like when I pay money through the banking system, my like a payment process is it's converted into the data, right? So it's also datification happening. So here we are having a process of datification of the process of converting the physical space into digital form, and we're also seeing the artifacts of datification. And I think these artifacts are basically the elements of this new aesthetics. And this aesthetic is formed by current tools. So we need to understand how this tool works. And maybe even if we are not a physicist, so we are not trying to move a super, to create, not move or move particles, to create a super precise drawings, we still, as an architects, for example, we still need to understand how to work with this aesthetics. And I think that we need to work with this aesthetics is not against, but with it. So we need to work against technology, we need to work with technology. And we need to use this technology to kind of to enforce our vision, and we need to vision through the technology. And in this project, it's also interesting how we are seeing how different objects like people, for example, are basically captured by this process of datification, the process of laser scanning, right? and they appear in our space, but they appear not as like a people. They appear as a space elements. They appear as as straight objects, like a columns in our world. So this project was done as a part of a SEAL gallery. So SEAL gallery, it's electroacoustic label where Boris Shevchenkov, he's the curator of this gallery. You can access it by basically typing in your browser seal.gallery, and you will find a lot of spaces created for this gallery, and this space was one of it. And Daria also did a central space for it. And this central space in terms of architecture is really interesting because it kind of combines a gaming aesthetics like this one. So is this like when we move outside of this space, how we see it, with a real architecture of a central hall of a concert hall. So this means like if you look at the spaces from a perspective of virtual architecture, we are seeing how the different aesthetics are starting to collide inside of a virtual reality spaces, for example. So we are seeing how the aesthetic of I don't know, a natural spaces colliding with the aesthetic of gaming objects, and this is how it looks from inside if you cut it. And another interesting thing with the spaces that we can use in the digital layer is basically that we can create spaces from information, and this is what we are doing at this workshop. So I will show you an example. This is a project called Encave, again by Ephemer1. And in this project, we used COVID-19 data as it was available on the GitHub for some time to create a three-dimensional space. And the idea was that while the pandemic is happening and growing over and over again, we can create something like a cave that people will be able to visit and maybe live through pandemic inside of it, inside of the virtual cave. For us, it was like an art project and when we created it, the biggest fear for us was that it's maybe overhyped and the pandemic will be over and people will stop thinking about this space. But the real problem right now is that pandemic is still going on and the space is not growing because it was a prototype. So we collected some data, grown the space from this data, and then stopped updating it. So and this is really a need for for a tool beyond the Grasshopper, so that can be directly connected to the information about the pandemics and can generate the space in like kind of a real time. So and it's interesting because I mean in a traditional architecture, right, we are always thinking about the spaces about something about as something hard. And while I was a student, I was a big fan of a term called soft architecture, which basically an architecture that can be transformed, disassembled, moved, etc. So the architectures that can live with society and kind of adapt to different social behaviors. But I think right now the soft architecture is not so kind of mainstream, and it's never became a thing. So it was more or less theoretical object, and it didn't get any practical applications. But what we're seeing in the digital world is that in the digital world, in the digital layer, we are able to create the soft objects. So we are able to create spaces that live with us, that grow with us, that mutate in time. And this is the really interesting things because it's allow spaces to become dynamic. And not so many people are doing it right now. And this is why I think this idea is super important to share, because we need to create in a digital realm, we always need to create dynamic objects because internet is dynamic, right? And it's really strange when we create static objects inside of dynamic systems like internet. So moving to to the next slide. This is the like a place in this lecture where I starting to talk again about the physical world. So in a digital world, I think the core concept is that it's important to make everything kind of connected to the information and evolve with an information. And also in the digital world, I think this aesthetics of computation, aesthetics of gaming will intersect, intertwine with each other. And it's really hard for architects, for example, right now, to create virtual spaces, I think, that looks like a real objects, because there is no such thing anymore. So we are having a new type of like a consumers inside of the internet, like a VR chat people, for example, which are completely into gaming, anime, etc. And these people need different spaces, I think, and this is our like a consumers. So we need to adapt, and we need to start thinking how this like a virtual architecture can be done for them as well. But again, returning to this concept of physical reality and the virtual reality connected with each other, I want to return to the nature and show you the project called Terra Zero. It's a really important project for myself because I think it's a kind of formed my vision for my PhD thesis. So this is a project where the forest starting to basically become autonomous. So this forest is not like a biological object anymore that we can consume, I don't know, grow if we need. No, it's basically a self-owning entity, and the self-owning entity decides what to do through the internet, through the communication. So in this project, we are seeing how the forest, the autonomous entity formed from the forest, can become a kind of an agent of a capital, while through the blockchain. So this is one of the projects from early blockchain era, which is not too far from today's. It's like 5 years ago, 4 years ago, or something like this, when people are starting to envision a basic applications of blockchains. And one of the obvious applications was that the blockchain, it's allow an algorithm basically to be able to send money in any direction, right? Or not money, a resource. So if the algorithm can send the resource or a money equivalent of the resource to any direction, this means that this algorithm can be attached to a biological entity like a forest, right? And this means that the forest at some point become algorithmical. So this forest becoming a thing that controlled by an algorithm, but also the forest is an algorithm. So in this project, in the Terra Zero, we are seeing how the authors of this project are saying that we need to reconsider them as a users of a technosphere. So the internet is not only for us, it's also for forests, for fishes, for animals. But it also says that not only internet, but also a blockchain, the technology inside of the internet. But I see it in my work a little bit differently. So I see that the forest is not like a user of the blockchain. Instead, using the blockchain, using the internet, we are able to make forest a cybernetic organism. So collecting the data from the forest and making the decisions for the forest, we are able to kind of modify the landscape, which is this forest, and we are able to kind of guide how this landscape is forming. And this is really interesting because this means that this like a blockchain, it's not an enhancement of the forest anymore. It forms with the forest a single entity, which exists in somewhere in between a physical layer of this forest and the digital layer, the algorithm controlling how this forest grown, how this forest spending its resources, etc. And recently we started to work with a fund called Sovereign Nature, So it's not a fund, it's a foundation, I think. Sovereign Nature Initiative, it's basically an initiative which accumulates the projects that trying to make the nature a sovereign entity. It's not only focusing on like a blockchain-driven projects like a Terra Zero, but the blockchain is a big part of a sovereign nature initiative movement. And the core idea of this initiative is that it's trying to find just like an answer for the question of self-ownership of the nature. And the cybernetics, the computing, is just a help for it, right? So we are kind of giving nature a hand, saying, okay, this is an algorithm that will allow you to be an agent in a communication with us. And this is really interesting because, I mean, again, we are seeing how the digital tool becoming not a kind of a separated technology, but instead it's becoming what I call a bridge. So basically, we're building a bridge between us and nature through technology. So a sensor, basically, or a smart contract inside of the blockchain, it's a bridge in between us and this biological entity. So as in Immaterials project, we've seen how this light stick is a bridge in between us and the digital world, right? Here we are trying to build a technological bridge again, but not with the digital world, but with the physical world, with the nature. So these bridges work in different directions, in the physical and in the digital at the same time. And also, it's interesting that the nature, as sovereign nature sees it, and this Terra Zero sees it, it's somehow connected to the capital. So what if nature starts to make a profit, but not make a profit not for us, but for itself, right? And this is interesting how capital here is attached to the idea of a sovereign agent, like a forest. So we are seeing how capital, basically, the ability to spend the capital, the ability to accumulate the capital is basically forms an agency, forms an artificial intelligence, if you can call it like this. This is all super important questions for myself as well. And this is why I joined a project called A Nature Cognita. This is a project from my friends, Helena Mitrofanova, Ivan Mitrofanov, and Pavel Akimov, which I joined as a software engineer. And in this project, before I joined, the idea was that they were getting electricity from plants. So basically, they connect a special stuff to plants' roots, and it allows them to extract something like 1 volt of electricity from a plant. It's not too much, like 1 volt, okay, or 0.4 volts. But still, if you connect a lot of plants together, you are able to kind of light a lamp or power a sensor or something like this. And when I appeared in this project, my idea was that using this low powered sensors, we are able to collect data from plants, but instead of creating the plants constantly connected to the internet, we are able to basically connect to the plants by ourselves from time to time. So with our phone working as a bridge, again, we are able to download the data from a plants and accumulate this data on our phone. And this means that this data can be not just stored on our phone, but later when our phone is connected to the internet, this data can be uploaded to the central database, and where we will see how the plants are collecting the information. So it's really, in our concept, it's really works nice with the plants that are located in the remote areas. Like when you hike somewhere and you see a smart plant like this, and you connect to it with your phone, download the data, and then hike back to the village where you have this 3D coverage, so you're able to upload the data there. And also it's interesting for me how in this project we are seeing an ecosystematic interaction between people, technology, and the plants, where technology works as a bridge for an interaction. So basically, it works as a medium, because in this ecosystem, we need a data from a plant. So we need to understand the temperature, for example, to humidity, etc. Also, the plants can not only sense outside environment, they also can sense themselves. So by collecting data, we also can know if the plant is okay, do it need watering, do it need something else, is the system is broken, etc. And also we can create an economical system where the downloaded data then like a sold on a data market, and we can get our like a share from every data object that is sold on a data market. So for example, right now, if you want to buy a data set, like, I don't know, a satellite imagery or some GPS data, you're paying for the whole data set. But here we can imagine how the data set basically is collected from chunks, and every chunk is signed by our own I don't know, blockchain wallet. And then when the data is sold on the market, we are receiving I don't know, 10% of a price paid for a data block, and receiving it to our blockchain wallet. So and this is how the plant root system works. So we are seeing how carbon fibers attached to plant root system is producing the electricity. So basically it works because we have a different potentials here and here, where with the minus and plus, between minus and plus, and it's really interesting technology. But I mean, it doesn't mean that we are able to create a forest that can power itself, power its computing, for example, right? It just means that when we are so we are able to create the synthetic objects like nature cognitive plants by modifying the actual plant. So it's still the modification. And this is like me paraphrasing the quote of a Terra Zero, that these plants, these animals enhanced by technology, they are not the users of technosphere anymore. It's a new biosphere. So in my research, I observe this in the environment around us as a new biosphere, where technology creates this new cybernetic objects like these plants, for example. And this technology, in example of nature cognitive, this technology is directly attached to these plants, right? So we are seeing like, okay, these wires, microcontrollers, etc. But if you look at the satellite imagery, for example, right, when the satellite is scanning the Earth and then creates a data set that contains, I don't know, the shape of the forest that we are scanning, we are seeing basically the same cybernetic organism like a nature cognitive plant, but without a direct attachment of a technology, because we do not modify a forest at all, but still we are using a satellite image as a sensor to understand how forest feels, right? And it's really interesting. So it's not like a non-invasive sensing, as it's called, a remote sensing. So the remote sensing is basically the same thing as we're doing in nature cognitive when we're trying to understand how the plant feels inside of it, but still it's done by satellite imagery. So and in this case, sometimes it's easy to forget that if you create a project where like a Terra Zero, where a forest making a decision based on the satellite data of itself, it's still a cybernetic organism, despite it doesn't have any virus at all, right? It's just connected to the network somehow. So it's one of my last slides, and here I mean, it's really interesting to see the metaverse of tomorrow, right? So as we see in the metaverse of today, something like a gameish, childish, and I don't know, with the bright colors. But I think the metaverse of tomorrow, or even the metaverse of today, is a metaverse of convergence between physical and digital, and this convergence happens on the informational level. So this really depends on, I mean, if you try to imagine the visual object of this metaverse, it really depends on our visual like understanding of the data, right? And the beauty of the data is that it's always can be reprojected into different visual forms. And this is a project of a scan lab. It's a beautiful LiDAR scan of a landscape. But also the scan labs did this project where they like a laser scanned different people dancing. And when I'm looking at these two projects, like when the scan lab scanning landscapes and when the scan lab scanning people, the first thing that I'm thinking is that in metaverse, it doesn't matter if you're a human, if you're a landscape, if you're a bird, if you're building, because at the end, if you like a laser scan, all of these things, it still will be an information. So bird is an information, building is an information, etc. So we're all becoming a set of dots, right? So this means that in this metaverse of today or tomorrow, we are able to interact with each other on the informational level, and we are able to communicate with each other on this level and form maybe new entities, new hybrid entities, where which are formed by this communication inside of the digital layer. So we are all becoming just a set of dots. It doesn't matter are we like a concrete building or a human from a flesh and bone. So that's it. That's the end of the lecture. Thank you for listening. I'm now ready to answer your questions, and after it, we will have a, I don't know, 5 minutes break so I can get the water, and you as well, because in Moscow it's super hot still, like 30 degrees, I think. And then we will move to our practical part, where we will finally use assets that you created to create a virtual space. Yes, Hassan, please.
Yeah, sorry, the electricity has went down anyway. Actually, I like to ask some question after sharing my experience, and I just remembered that about a year ago in the pandemic, I entered a 3D chat. It's a software. There are many 3D chats actually on the internet. AmiView or Second Life, or maybe there are some platforms. Anyway, so I tried to be a creator in this platform. So as a designer, I just designed something by Rhino, some piece of furniture, and I was thinking about building my own space in this platform. Anyway, after a while, I felt myself like lost in digital world, and I felt there is a different feeling from the physical world, and I preferred just once I see myself uh, like overwhelmed by technology, and I'm living inside the screen. So my question is, how do you think that the effect of this VR worlds or digital worlds inside someone is living inside the internet? I don't mean the normal chat, but I think like exactly the Mozilla Hubs. Uh, I feel like myself living in something is not real. So what do you think as a researcher in this field? Do you think the future would be uh, this virtual reality, or will take a lot of we will not feel real anymore like now or before? Do you think that we are going to uh, a world of digitalization that we are living in our PCs? Sorry for my
Yeah,
loss.
that's a great question. And what I think is that the history is running in circles. So and what we think new is still old. And so I think it's easy to predict these things when you look at the past. And again, in this book, the simulation and its discontent, it's starting from a forward from John Maeda. He was like an MIT Media Lab director, I think, especially at the time when the book was written. So it's like a 10 years old book or a 7 years old book. And in this like a short text, John Maeda is saying that he bought a Second Life island, and at one point started to play with it and sold it. But looking at the book, there's a the author called Turkle. I think I will send you the name. Sorry, I really bad at remembering names. So and looking at the author of this book, he's now understanding that at some point maybe he will need it back, his island in a Second Life. And I think this is at one thing from a first sight, this quote looks ridiculously simple, but at the same it's a lot of meaning inside of it. So this means that for myself, that we're always attached to the beauty of the digital objects, and we're always attached to the beauty of like a freshness of something new, etc. But at the same time, it's really hard to forget who we are biologically. I mean, how it was created. And this means that you always will be like going back and forth in between virtual and physical. But at the same time, the biggest question that I think we need to ask it is again, what is virtual? So I mean, it's easy to think that these screens, this like VR VR displays, HMDs, they're like this is virtual, but it's not like this, because I mean, yes, we can get a zoom fatigue, we can get the sickness from a VR headset, but at the same time, while we are navigating the city, we are still using digital tools, right? We are using maps, and at some point, I'm not sure that in Google Maps you're having this, but in Russian analog of Google Maps, Yandex Maps, you're having a lot of advertising. And this advertising is kind of in between physical reality and digital reality already, because it looks at your geoposition and trying to kind of understand where you are. So it's trying to understand what to offer for yourself, like what product to offer, what activity to offer for yourself. And I think this is what the real virtuality. So this convergence of digital and physical spaces. And in the future, we will also be kind of fighting for the ownership, but ownership that is happening not only in the virtual reality, but also in the physical reality with enhancement of a digital tool. So we'll be fighting for geocoded media. Like there is a good paper called a head map manifesto about geolocated augmented reality, where the author says that we're always kind of fighting for a space. And of course, we will be fighting for, it's a paper from 1996, I think. And their author saying like, yeah, we'll be fighting. We were fighting for a physical space. Of course, we will be fighting for digital representations of a physical space. This is what's happening in the Decentraland, what is happening in Second Life, etc. But it will be happening more intensively when the geolocated augmented reality will be available. And of course, people will be starting to kind of separate the physical reality into regions where different virtual or digital things can be accessed. And but I mean, this will be hybrid process. We are not will be like trying to work only in virtual reality, only in the physical reality. So it's all a hybrid process. Even if you play in a Second Life, I mean, you still need a flat or a house, right? You need to sit on something. And so you still need to have this physical reality. And with virtual reality, it's like a really interesting mind trick. If you look how the modern Oculus VR glasses working, they were designed in states where they have a specific configuration of a house, right? So this house have a big living room with a space like a 3x3 meters where you can play this virtual reality. And the games for the Quest designed in the US, they have this like a requirement for a big empty space. So when you're in a virtual reality and when you're moving through your physical space, you need your physical space to be big. And some VR gamers, basically, they have the properties like a garage with a furniture completely removed. So this is like a shell, a physical shell for the virtual space. So even the modern VR goggles, I mean, they need a physical space, and the space needs to be specifically configured to allow yourself to be presented in the virtual reality. So even if you completely like, because I mean, usually virtual reality observed as a thing that removes the physical layer completely, But I think it's just a question of immersion. So in augmented reality, the immersion is like a 50%, and in virtual reality is a 100%. But the physical space is still there. You cannot abolish it, and you still need it to play the virtual reality. And this is a really interesting thing. So I think that the technology will grow, but the physical space will be there. And maybe sometimes we will even migrate to different areas. For example, in New York, it's impossible to get a space 3 by 3 meters, right? So it's easy for you to migrate somewhere far away from a central location where you can buy an empty garage where you can play the virtual reality game or a sport if you are an athlete in a virtual reality. So it's all intertwined already. Yeah, thank you. I think it's a really interesting question. I see another question in the chat. So
thank you.
Yeah, Christiana, I will send it. It's called simulation, and it's discontents. I will send the link to the chat. And another article called a head map manifesto. I will also send it. 1 sec. Mm-hmm. For the head map manifesto, I don't. It's here because yeah, here I see the PDF probably available. No, it's not 96, it's 99. Since because head map manifesto had this website, but it's all on the internet. It's disappeared, I think, several years ago. So now you need to kind of Google for the PDF on different websites, and somewhere it's uploaded. Yeah, any more questions? Feel free to ask. We still have a couple of minutes.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my internet is not very good. I have a bit different perception of digital reality, not the same as Hassan described. For me, it looks more like lucid dreaming, if you know something about it, and it seems a bit warmer than maybe even real world. For me, it's a big question about possibility of merging these two realities, and when people will not be able to separate them. And so the question is, who will be owner of our dreams, if we can say so, and who need to be the constructors of them, because now it's just still more like gaming for us, but then it will become a new world, a new reality, a dream world. I think it's quite scary for me, thinking about who will be the owners and creators.
Yeah, I agree. That's an interesting question, and I mean, the ownership and the control of creativity is the big question right now, because the Facebook, for example, it's putting a lot of money into its VR headsets and also into its augmented reality platform, which basically here. And nobody kind of spotted how it's appeared, but it's one of the main, most mainstream virtual augmented reality platforms. It's called Spark AR, right? Which is integrated into Facebook, into Instagram, so you can create filters, masks, and filters for rear cameras, which enhance the outside world. And in this platform, you cannot just create something, you need to be moderated. So if you want to publish to it, you are basically passing the moderation process. And of course, Facebook want to sell the advertisements on top of this. And this is why I believe that the modern metaverse, as I see it, is like almost directly connected to Web3. Web3 is a kind of a new term. I think it's a still no. I mean, it's a quite several years old, but it's appeared with a new force recently when the NFT became a thing, right? When people started to sell their artworks, and through the art, people started to understand, wow, there is a blockchain, and they finally started to kind of understand that it's useful, at least for selling pictures of cats to each other for whatever reason. And people started to go again into terms like Web3, which they're from almost from the dates when this first NFT marketplaces appeared. And the idea of Web3 is like it's an upgrade of Web 2.0, which is basically Facebook, Google, etc. are the outcomes of. And if the Web 1.0 was like everybody can create anything, everybody can create the website, etc. But still, it was hard to host the website, hard to kind of own the website. So you will need the technological skills, etc. So this is how Web 2.0 appeared. So everybody can now create an information, everybody can create a content, right? Everybody can be an author, etc. You don't need to program anything. But at the same time, you are now belonging to the platforms. Because in the Web 2.0, in its like a definition, the platform costs a lot, but it's kind of gets its money back from the advertisement, from a control over our information, over our creativity, etc. But in Web 3, what we are seeing is that through the blockchain, through the decentralization, we are able to share our information inside of this decentralized thing. And this decentralized thing is based on a flat economy. This means that everybody in this economy is an equal actor. So if you are selling your, I don't know, 3D models there, you are getting a cut. The platform from which you are sold this 3D model is also getting a cut. And it can be all programmed inside of the blockchain. So now if you publish the NFT, somewhere you can program directly in the NFT how many persons you will get from any resale of your digital object. So this you can programmatically create a whole economy where we all become an actors. And of course, it will not kind of remove the platform capitalism because it's still based on platforms, just different platforms. But still, it creates this like a flat economical layers that allow us to sell our creativity, that allow us to be identified with this creativity, and that allow us to persist our creativity. And I think this is super important because if we will rely on the projects like Facebook or Instagram, we are still under the complete control, and also the creativity is limited. So I mean, on Instagram, there's a lot of unknowns that your art cannot explore. For example, which are for good there, but some of them are for bad. And this is why I think that decentralization is really the answer. And this is I also use the Mozilla Hubs, because Mozilla Hubs it's centralized right now. So when you use the Hubs Mozilla.com, you're accessing the server that is installed by Mozilla. But you can easily create your own installation of Mozilla Hubs and create your own like a social virtual reality experience. This is how we done a seal gallery that I showed, the sound art gallery together with Boris Shershenkov. We just installed a custom version of Mozilla Hubs. I modified a little bit of source code, and that's it. And it's version completely separated. So we decide by ourselves when to update it. We decide by ourselves when to scale it, etc. And this is, I think, how the world needs to work. So if you create this virtual world or even enhancement for the physical world, you must be able to done it separated from a main like a platform. And blockchain is really help here because I mean the Mozilla Hubs is still centralized in terms of like a payment system, because it's based on AWS. Because on AWS, they have a nice algorithm when you're like installing Mozilla Hubs for yourself. You're paying a little bit of money, like a 5% from your server costs to Mozilla. So they are basically receiving the money for the core product. I think it's a beautiful model, but the problem is that this is why they're not like putting a lot of effort to migrate Mozilla Hubs to other platforms, like I don't know, not AWS by Amazon. So, and blockchain can allow us to basically automate the collection of this money So if you use the platform on your own infrastructure, on your own premise, you can basically connect your blockchain wallet, and the subscription money will be collected from it, or you can pay even for something like how many people accessing your platform, etc. It all can be programmed. So it's not too much different from current platform capitalism, really. But I think that because it's decentralized and everybody can create on it, it's still a lot of free will there. And I really believe in Web3 in terms of like how we can create the content, how we are able to access the content. And I think that despite that the hype over the NFT is over, there is a huge potential in this idea of ownership of a digital asset, because it's not anymore the ownership of a digital asset. At some point, this digital asset becoming a physical asset, basically, because it's starting to contain the rights of ownership, right? It's starting to have a provenance, etc., etc. So it's starting to become something like a physical object. So it's a little bit maybe a topic for another discussion. So how we are basically absorb the physical object from a digital perspective, or a digital object from a physical perspective. But I believe that it all happens in terms of laws and rights, and the things that we can own something and it can be proven. It's really important. So in this case, if you created a beautiful dream and if you can resell it on a kind of platform and people can own it, and if it's things decentralized, this means that this big question of ownership is control becoming not soft, but a little bit more soft at least. So you can decide who is buying, who is selling, etc. Yep. Does it? Any more questions? No. Okay. So in this case, let's have a 10 minutes break, and then I will show you how the Hubs works, how you can create your room in Hubs, and how you can import the models that you did with Maria to Hubs. Okay, see you in 10 minutes. So in 50 minutes. I mean, in Moscow it's 7:50 will be, but in your time zone, plus minus several hours. Hello everyone again. So let's wait. If you can, please enable your cameras so I can see who is here and who is not. Okay. So most of us is here, so let's continue. And now it's a practical part of our workshop. So first, let's see how we can use Mozilla Hubs and how we can create their environments or rooms. So let me share my screen. Hubs, mozilla.org. Yeah. I also forget to send you this hubs.co.gallery or just CO. So this is a gallery space that I mentioned, or Zoom didn't understand this domain. Yeah, this is the gallery space that we created with my colleague Boris Shershenkov, and it's done in the hubs, the tools that we'll be using right now. So we just customized it. So again, Hubs is a kind of a virtual reality platform working in the browser, and it consists of rooms, and it contains rooms. And the beauty of it, again, returning to Alexander's question, is that everybody can create a room, and everybody can become a creator here, or even install its his or her own server for hosting these rooms or virtual reality experiences. And of course, this all rooms can be accessed simultaneously by different people, so it's kind of creates a social experience. But also the beauty of Hubs is that it's not super hard to create a room for Hubs, because you can use a Spoke editor. So it just this button, Spoke. If I press it, it moves me to an editor called Spoke, and I just need to press Get Started. Let's try to press this button. You see, Spoke downloaded my different projects that I did. It's all like educational projects, so nothing special. So if you press New Project, Spoke allow you to select a template, which is kind of a nice way to start if you want to create something from scratch, so you're able to see what is possible. For example, like a hubs or a schoolroom, whole different material examples, etc. Or even you see a modular art gallery. So they create a template for an art gallery which looks like an art gallery. So if you want to create an art gallery in Hubs, you are welcome. Or an event space. But before they created all these templates, it was not so much here, like Creator, wide open space, and I think that's it. So I always started with Creator, and I think I will continue to do so. So I'm starting with a Creator template. Creator template is just a template with a Creator. That's it. And when you create this template, it looks really like an architectural software. So I will not spend too much time describing how you can work with this template. Instead, I will show you a core concepts of interacting with in Hubs. So first, there is a controls here, and I always forget them. And there is a help about controls, because they're a little bit different from a usual three-dimensional software. They're more or less the same, but still different. And these controls allow you to navigate the space. The second thing, important thing besides navigating the space, is this hierarchy window. And hierarchy window allow you to create and select, delete or select different objects. And now I will show you how what these objects are. So here, this is the root object, is our scene. And you see that even the scene has different properties, like fog, override audio settings, background color, etc. So this is how you can set up a scene. And it's important that the scene is not a room. So the scene is basically like your 3D model, and the room is like a Zoom link, which created from this 3D model. So when you create a scene, you then need to create a room from your scene. So it's important to keep in mind. Then we have a skybox object, which basically a classical skybox like this. And it's just a kind of object which is can be controlled by classic parameters like in a game engine. So you're not saying it needs to be darker or lighter. Instead, you are saying that you what is the luminance, what is the horizon, time of the day. So 00 it's night, 6 a.m. it's morning. I hope. So this is how you can set it up. Also, you have a lighting, like a 3D engine. I'm not a huge like adept of setting up lighting in a 3D software, so I hope you are, because I mean, for me it's always hard. So I usually prefer when some kind of someone with more design-oriented thinking can do a lighting in a scene, because it's always kind of an art for me to design a cool lighting in a scene, because it's a really complex task. And also, you need to be careful with the lights in the hubs, because the lights, as more lights you have, as less performant your scene, especially on mobile devices. So it's important to keep this in mind. We will not cover the mobile optimization in this workshop, so don't worry. But still don't overload your scene with the lights. This one is a spawn point. The spawn point is basically a point in a space where you are appearing as a person. So you see it has a direction of eyes and position. And floor plan is basically a plan which you are navigating. So it's a kind of invisible object, but still, no, floor plan visible, terrain creator invisible. No, it's not showing. So it's an object that allows you to basically navigate the scene. So it's kind of a map, and this is like a returning to the lecture. So it's like a space, and the floor is a map of the space. And this plan basically decides where you can go and where you cannot go. So it's creating boundaries for you. So you always need to be careful with it. And if you model of a scene not working properly, you probably need to regenerate the floor plan. There is a button here, regenerate, which recreates the floor plan and recalculates the model which you can navigate for you. And this is a model that we uploaded here from a 3D engine called Terrain Creator GLB. It's important to know that Mozilla Hubs supports only GLB, I think. It is okay, because it's a kind of standard file format which you can use. I will show you today how to export the GLB from Blender. So it's okay. So here is a pretty standard options for yourself, like a position, rotation, and scale of an object. And the also nice thing is that you can change the URL for the model. So this model is uploaded to Hubs, so you can change it here. Settings for animation, like loop animation or select this needed animation. And this is important checkboxes like a collidable and walkable. This means that this space is collidable, so this space is hard, so you cannot go past through it or pass it. Walkable means that you can walk on it. Cast shadows means that it's cast shadows on different objects. It's unchecked, but it receives shadows. I don't remember what is combined checkbox. And billboard allow it's needed for two-dimensional pictures, so they can always be faced in your direction. There is also a good statistical window here, which shows how complex your 3D object. So it's better to keep this numbers low. So not so many triangles, not so many textures, just one material, etc. But for prototypes, it's always not work like this. But still, you can analyze here the model, see the textures of it, even do a validation. So really nice. I think they recently added it. Okay, so here is like a main hierarchy window and the properties in a right part of the screen. In the bottom part of the screen, we are having basically an elements collection. So the elements is basically a different objects that you can add into a hierarchy and then access this property in this properties window. So usually I'm working only with a 3D model. So should be, yeah, somewhere here. Yeah, so when you create it like this, and you see that it's starting to preload, but the problem is that you see that the model URL, so you need to have a model URL for your model, and it will be automatically loaded here. So now Hubs put the default model URL to Sketchfab. Sketchfab, it's a website with 3D models, which you can access to create your scenes. And this is a default, like a duck object that you can download from it. Yeah, so you see that this is a duck. What is interesting here is that you cannot just upload models here via the Sketchfab. You can just directly drag and drop models to the screen. And this is how I got my assets tab. So it's like different models that I uploaded during the workshops or testing my different concepts, etc., or the students' concepts. And you see everything that you basically drag it and drag and drop here will appear in your assets, and then there will be models, images, videos, and audio files. Models, to access the model, you need just to drag and drop it here, like click and click again, and you will have this. One sec, I will scale it a little bit. So, yeah. So, and that's it. The coolness of Hubs is that basically after you put the model here and set it up, the scene, the environment, etc., you are good to go. So after you've taken this model, this is probably a model of my face. Yes, I recognize myself. I can publish it to Hubs. So, or even I can export it as a binary GLTF file. You see, so basically you can export the whole scene as a three-dimensional model. So this is a cool thing, because Hubs basically is working as a GLB standard, in a GLB standard. This means that the whole scene is defined inside of the GLB file, and then Hubs parsing this GLB file. So all the elements that you add here, they appear as a part of your three-dimensional model. So then I can press publish. name it like digital test 1 and put save project. Wait a couple of seconds. Yeah. Now it's asking me to publish. I press save and publish. And now this is important thing. It's a performance check. So it says that the polygon count is low. It's cool. I just have 5 unique materials. It's cool. It probably will take 59 megabytes of video RAM. Cool. 1 light. Cool. Publish scene. And view my scene. And now you see that my scene, it's not appeared as a room because I still need to create a room, so I will be able to share it with you. So I press a button, create a room with this scene. And now my scene is loaded in the Hubs. So it's super quick, and I'm now basically jumped from nowhere to my scene. I can share my room with you, and we will be able to exit collaboratively all together. So here I put a link. And if everybody will join me, it will appear just in this space together with myself. And the coolness of this thing is that I can access it from my laptop, like I'm doing right now. But I can also access it from my mobile phone. So you can try to open this link from your mobile phone as well. And I can, yeah, so I see that someone joined. Or from VR glasses. So if I put my VR glasses on and just open a VR browser instead of my VR glasses, I still can access this space. And this is really interesting thing. So so it's creates this like a multiple device access, but you can do a lot of stuff here. So not just move through this space like we are doing right now. You can hear, listen to music here, watch a video. I can also share a screen here like this. So I don't know. Now we will create some recursion. So I create a screen of screens in classical trick, which is like a screen that is showing my screen on my screen on my screen on my screen, etc. So yeah, and I can even scale it. It's a button that allow me to move it. Oh, I forget how to scale it. It's a little bit problematic that they designed the controls first for the virtual reality, and in virtual reality it's a little bit easier to manipulate things. And on desktop, I always kind of find myself puzzled when I need to scale something. So it's like a Alt Control or something that shows the scale properties. Yeah. So it's also have a chat here. So and now I mean while we understood how it all works in general, I want to show you like a how to basically you're able to import models that you did with Maria to this system. So To do so, you need another software called Blender. And Blender is a three-dimensional modeling software. It's open source. So again, it's I think kind of inside of the decentralized ideologies. So it's free. It's open source. Everybody can modify it. So now I will share my screen with Blender and show you how you are able to import your models here and how you are able to export your models in the hubs. So here in a Blender, when you appear, it's again different controls. So I will create a new file. No, I even so yeah, because I'm sharing just Blender and I need to rerun it when I selecting my control scheme. So in Blender you can use the control scheme like in Maya or Cinema 4D, but I recommend to stick with the Blender control scheme because it's native for it, just a little bit different. So Blender has different a concept of like a multi several like layouts. So basically every part of screen here can become anything. So now it's a timeline, but it can be a shader editor, or it can be a video sequencer. So whatever you want. Or even another 3D viewport. So really tweakable, but I think the problem is that if you want, I mean, sometimes it can be a little bit complex to keep it in mind. So all the steps are basically reconfiguring your screen, changing its layout, and that's it. And you can start with this just layout screen. So again, as we spoke, you have a hierarchy here. So camera, cube is a model, right? So I can hide it, show it. Light is the lighting. And here, it's a kind of a preference, like a properties window with different preferences. So when I see, and also you see that this properties, they're changing depending on what kind of object you selected. So if I select light, some elements disappear from here, and if I select an object, some elements appear here. So now I will go and import the OBJ files that Maria sent to me. And you will be be able to do similar. So something similar. I mean, you need to be able to export the model from Rhino and import it to Blender and export it as an OBJ file. What I recommend to check, the file size at least. So it must be not super big. So this one is 160 megabytes. It's okay, I think, but a little bit too big for such simple model. But if you have a model which weighs something like a gigabytes in OBJ format, you are definitely doing something wrong, what I can say you. So despite all the efforts, it will not work. So try to export a more simple model. Maybe try to use a lower resolution source file or something like this. Now I'm press import and wait. So now I'm waiting while the model is imported. Boom, 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 boom. Waiting. Yeah, let's wait a little bit. Still waiting. Maybe this model is a little bit big. Yeah. Now we receive this model, and it's sometimes hard to see it. So usually I'm just zoom out or zoom in to see it, and now you see my landscape, but it's really big. I mean, by the Blender standards, and you see that when I'm zooming out, it's kind of hides from the screen. So now what I need to do, I need to at least scale it. So the scale is here in this object properties, but also there is also a S hotkey. So I'm able to kind of scale it like this. And I mean, when you scale something, you need to think about the relative size. And this object is probably 1 to 1 meter, something like this. And so now I think that the scale of this landscape is okay, but can be bigger. But I mean, it was just huge, so you need to experiment with it. But I mean, you can scale it again in hubs, so it doesn't matter a lot. What I'm doing next, I'm moving geometry to origin. Usually, you see, and now I'm centered my landscape basically. So origin is this red dot, which is usually is in the middle of screen. So you can put it where you want, like this. And then when you do an object, set geometry to origin, you basically centering it at the center. So now it's more or less at the center, but I'm not sure. But I think for the test it's fine. So I mean, it's important when how you put it in a world here. So as you centered it or not. So I think now it's at the center. Yeah, more or less like this. And you see, it's like a leaf structure, but still it's a three-dimensional landscape. So now I can delete my box. It's unneeded. And also it's a fairly basic example. So I will not set up any materials here. Let's just export it straight. But if you want to set up the materials, you can go into this tab, press shader, and here is the materials window. And now if I can change the base color, I can change how my object is colorized. And other different PBR properties like metallic, specular, etc. So you can try to experiment with this to set up the feel of your object that you really like. I'm not sure that I like this color, so I put it black and white like this. Yeah, but now the most like a tricky part will happen. So now we need to optimize it. So 160 megabytes is a little bit too much, I think, for the object to be presented in hubs. So I now want to modify it that it will be easy importable into hubs. So to do so, I press modifier parameters like this. Press add modifier and put decimate modifier here. And the decimate modifier basically it's allow you to collapse, unsubdivide, or remove coplanar polygons from your model. So now I'm pressing planar. Wait a little bit while my computer thinking, and you will see. So now you see the face count here, like a 644,000 of the faces of the polygons. It's really too much. So to understand the mesh of this object, I'm just press tab on my keyboard and wait again. So these objects are increasingly complex from a grasshopper. You see how many faces it has. It's kind of a lot. For such a simple structure, it has too much faces. And this is why sometimes we do not use grasshopper at all to prepare spaces and ephemeral one, because I mean, in the grasshopper, the meshes quality in terms of like a polygons are not so great, because I mean, we see here that this structure is clearly polygonized, right? It's not a natural angle here, but still it's almost 1 million polygons. I mean, in 1 million polygons, you can create something more natural, but still the decimate modifier can like fix it, not fully, but still. And to do so, you can experiment with angle. And now I will put like a 15 degrees angle here instead of 5 degrees. And now I need to go again, I think, from this mode to object mode. Wait while it's recalculating. So I press tab again. Now it's recalculating my planar decimate, and you see the picture doesn't change at all. Almost, I mean, yeah, it's different shapes, maybe more polygonized, but we almost halved the face count in our shape. So we can try to experiment more, like 25% angle of 25. This means that it tries to merge polygons that are almost 25 degrees from each other. I mean, it means that it's not, they cannot be direct, the direct plane like this. It can be like this, and let's try to merge. So let's wait for 25. Yeah, now we see that artifacts or errors start to appear, like this one, but still a pretty fine piece, I think. So, I mean, despite of the, I mean, looking at the complexity of your model, you can try to balance this quality and complexity. So let's keep 15 as a reference. So 300 polygons is still too much, but I think we will like live with it. Yeah, so here is my optimized model. Now I need to press File. I need to select model first, like a digital leaves. I need to select File, Export, glb/gltf, and in a folder in the Blender, I need to export it, like a test export 1. And now I will describe you what every property doing here, like include. So limit to, I usually select limit to selected object, so only selected object will be exported. And now you see that I selected digital leaves object, so it's okay. No data here. Transform is fine by default. Geometry is fine by default. The compression is really interesting, but it's not working, I think, for geometry. And for animation, we also can keep it as default. And it's also, if you want to, if you animate something, what is important, and I always forget if this checkbox needs to be on or off. You need to press this button to group by NLA track, so all the animations will be merged in the single one. And I'm not sure where in geometry is it. Yeah, so you see that because I'm applied the modifier, the decimate modifier, I have two options here. Apply modifier when I export, so I can set up it later in a Blender file, or I can apply the modifier in advance. So here I can press the button, press apply. Yeah, I have a message in the chat. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. It's hard for me to read the chat again. So I will read the message. If you want to say something, just say by voice.
Okay. Sorry, the number of polygons didn't change. I just changed the degree to 15, but it's still the number of face counts is still like.
But you need to be not in a mesh mode, but in object mode. So check here that you are not in edit mode, but in object mode, because modifier not apply in edit mode.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
yeah, it's calculating now.
Yeah, and now I'm applying this modifier, but
yeah, it worked.
So I press apply. Some computations going on. I hope it will not stuck. One sec. And now I can export file, export GLTF again. So if you didn't apply the modifier like myself, you need to press this button, apply modifiers. But usually I apply modifiers in advance. And now I just select my folder, put it like test export 1. It's a GLB file, not a GLTF file. Yeah, and compression, unfortunately, you can enable it, but it's a Draco compression, and your file will become smaller. But right now, Mozilla doesn't support Draco compressed models. But it really allows you to make your scene more downloadable on slow connections. And I press export GLTF, waiting. So, I mean, in case you are wondering, GLB and GLTF is the same file format. It's just a binary representation and a textual representation. So you can better to work with the binary. It's smaller. So I got my GLB file exported. I will show you. Yeah, so it's in this folder. And now I'm double click, and it will open in, if you're on Windows, it's a beautiful program called 3D Viewer. And 3D Viewer like shows you how your object look like. And my rule of thumb, if in my object appear in a 3D viewer, this means that it works. So on the macOS, you can use the web version of a GLB viewer. I will send you the link shortly. But on Windows, you have this nice tool that I always use to test my models. So I export and test it there. But if you are on Linux or macOS, you can use this tool. So after we're done, after we exported our file, the next step is to be able to import it into Hubs. So here is my Hubs window, Spoke, sorry, window. And now I will delete my head and just drag and drop my 3D model, the digital leaves model, to my screen. You see that it started to upload. A little bit heavy file, so the upload is not like lightning fast. It's appeared, but I not see it. That's strange. That's strange. Okay. It's a bug, I think, because you see that when I click on it, it's empty, so I can delete it. But then here is my model in models. Now if I press it and then I drag and drop it, it appears here. And now I'm able to press publish to hubs. So you see it says that it has too much polygons, maybe. It's more than faces I had. So yeah, it was polygonized, not so nice. But still, I think it will work. I hope so. So now I'm publishing it. And when you are publishing, it's also important configuration here. There is a button called Allow Remixing. Allow Remixing allows you to remix a model. So when I press Allow Remixing, this means that if I send you the scene, the link to the scene, you will be able to remix it in your Spoke. So this is the way how you can share the scenes between each of you and keep them editable. So now I press save and publish. Wait a little bit. Yeah, it's 23 megabytes. I'm not sure why it's publishing so long. I still have a crater. Oh, maybe because of this.
I just dragged and dropped the model on the platform, and it's loading something.
Okay.
Yeah, the cube appeared, but I don't know why I can't control by mouse. I just can't control by keyboard.
In a Spoke window.
I can't. Let me find it.
Yeah, so I think I'm getting some difficulties exporting the scene. I don't know why. Yeah, looks like it's starting to. 1 sec, maybe. Yeah, okay, yeah, it's still it's a high polygon count, but okay. Let's press publish. Now it's loading. I think after I like finish showcasing this, you can share the screen, Hassan, and ask and show what is your problem. So now I can create a room with my scene. And now it's loading. Yeah. It's loaded. Okay. Yeah, now I am able to navigate my landscape that I created. You see, I'm like moving from my model, jumping, etc.
Cool.
Yeah, I can fly here. So it's so easy to, and I think that your kind of your further work. So sorry, Hassan, can you mute because I'm hearing the background noise. Yeah, so and the cool thing with it is that basically now you see that the scale is not right. So this is not a wall, for example, for me, right? But if you kind of scale it up a little bit further, this can become a real landscape for myself, the landscape created from just a leaf. So this can be a full virtual world, a full virtual landscape created just from a single model. With different rows, roads, etc. So the first steps for us is to be able to create a kind of an object from your models. So you need to create a hubs room from your 3D models. So you need to optimize them, scale them accordingly, and on the day after tomorrow, we will have a final presentations. So you will present your final work and what kind of landscape you got from your leaves when you first did your experiment, then you converted your leaf into a 3D object, and then you pass this 3D object to your to the Mozilla Hubs. And I think to improve your like a storytelling, you can use additional models that you can model by yourself if you have an experience of designing things in 3D. But you can also try to use a website. Yeah, for the Wednesday, let's discuss. There was at 6 in GMT +3, but the problem is that I need to to catch train at 8, and the presentation will be going for something like an hour or 2 hours. So I wanted to move it a little bit earlier. So I suggest that we start at 4 in the GMT +3 time zone, so 2 hours earlier than it was suggested, if it's okay for all of you. Yeah. Okay. Okay, Barbara. So I will send you the invite after today's class, and this recordings that I'm doing today, it will be available right after the class, so I will not re-uploading it. And for those who didn't catch something during the class, I think it will be useful. yeah, so for the final presentation, again, you need to prepare the space like I did. And I believe that some of you for sure, and maybe all of you, will be able to put more creativity to it. So I showed you how just to convert the three-dimensional model to a space in Mozilla Hubs. But you can add additional layers of complexity. And in Spoke here, you have a direct access to, one second, I will show it. You have a direct access to Sketchfab library. So you can see that you can import almost any object from a Sketchfab by just clicking on it. But the problem is that sometimes these objects are a little bit big or complex, so it's hard to import them. But you can try. It's a lot of stuff, like a Hubs. Even there is a Hubs recommended models, but there's only one model. Okay. Some pre-made stuff from Hubs, and also there is a search, so you can type dog, press enter. Yeah, and this one is popular right now, Shiba dog. So I think Shiba won the meme fight with Corgi this year. So I don't know why there is no any Corgi here. Yeah, only Shiba. Okay, because 3 years ago there was only Corgi in the dog, not in a search window, but everywhere. I mean. So you can add these models easily. I think you understood the process, but let me show. I clicked on the Shiba, put the Shiba here, and wait a little bit, and you see now the Shiba lives in my landscape. So feel free to combine it as you see, but of course remember about aesthetics. But I think you can put some creativity. I mean, not like this, but much better. Just showing that how you can import the models here. There is also an ability to upload your own music to Hubs. It's like a pre-made sounds, but you can add your own MP3 files, so feel free to add. And also there is an architecture kit that allow you to select different elements, different furniture to enhance your scene. It also can be cool, but usually, of course, such pre-made assets are not looking super great, but can be a helpful hand. So better, of course, to model everything from inside of Blender, but for those who like myself who didn't have skills, I think pre-made assets are still a cool way to go. Or you can go to Sketchfab website directly, like this. 1 second, I'll share the screen. Yeah, and download all the models from the Sketchfab by yourself, and then just import these models into Blender and modify them. So I mean, it's really easy to keep aesthetics. Oh no, this is paid model, $10. Okay, maybe something free. This one I don't like. Maybe this one. Yeah. So sometimes there is a download link. Not under this one. So probably you can search, use advanced search or something like this to find objects with downloadable links. And you can download these objects directly into Blender. Yeah, that's strange they don't see the link. And after you download these objects, maybe you probably need to log in. Okay. 1 sec. Okay, now, sorry, I forget to log in, and now it asks me to personalize. Okay, here. I still don't see the download link. Okay, so it should be on some models for sure. One sec, I will try if it's in my collections. Yeah, so I previously downloaded this model, so I'm sure. Yeah, so this model that we used in one of the ephemeral one concepts, it's a 3D scan charge that we modified in Blender. And the cool thing that you can achieve by downloading model like this, like a download 3D model, then you need to download GLTF, or can be PLY, by the way. So you need to download it, import it into Blender, the same as I imported OBJ. And then if you go to our website, to ephemeral one, I think I didn't send it to you in chat. Yeah. So in our website, in the projects, there is this room, which is basically done from that charge. So we imported the charge. We imported the charge from a Sketchfab, and then just modified lighting, textures, and baked everything in the single texture by ourselves. So it's a kind of mashup, like a DJ mix of a 3D space. You see that it has additional elements here, etc. And there is a Hubs room that you can access to test it. So such a simple modification of a three-dimensional object is really kind of a way to go when you want to create something creative, but you're, I don't know, in a hurry, and you need to something to start to work with. So these 3D scans work really nice, I think. So it's a nice room, and it's a vast space here. So this is how you can do it. Now I'm ready to answer your questions. So Hassan, if you can share your screen and show what is not working for you, it would be great.
Yes. Actually, I got lost. I think I closed the room. Yeah, let me enter.
Okay.
Let me enter the hub again. I think my internet is so slow, so it's just loading.
Yeah, it can take a while to load the complex scene. Anybody else have any questions? Because I think I told a lot of practical stuff, so maybe.
I can ask you something. I really like the model and the landscape you created in Hubs. It's really interesting. But I was thinking if there is a way to put the texture on the mesh, the original texture.
Sure. Yeah, I can. I can show. Thanks. So there is a to apply a texture, you need to use a shader here, and you need to add and just press text to, yeah, it's an image texture here, and now you need to open a texture. I'm not sure that I have basically a picture somewhere. but the idea is like this. So you are getting the picture and connecting color pin to base color, and that's it. So the picture will appear, but you see that it's dark because there is no picture. But I need to show you one single trick also. So the trick is like this. So this object needs to have a UV map. And the UV map, it's a special property of a three-dimensional object, which projects the texture to the three-dimensional object. So you have a tab here called UV editing. When you press it, you will go to the UV map like a window, and you see it doesn't have a UV map. So my mesh is selected, but there is no UV map. So here we don't see anything. So now I can generate the UV map. I press UV, and there are different ways to create a UV map. You can experiment with it. So unwrap is the simplest one. Like a smart UV project is like the smartest one. But for the landscape, last time I used something like project from view. This means that like it will be flat. So basically, I'm looking at object right now like this, right? So and it will try to move whole object to the UV map. So for landscapes, this works. So now I press project from view, and now when I selecting it, you see that there is a UV map created. So all the elements appeared here. I think I was mistaken, and it's had some kind of UV map before because the square was big and black. Maybe I'm just maybe it was just wrong. So now I can scale this UV map the same way as I did before, and so it just fit the whole area. While I'm streaming and doing this, my computer is super slow, so I think you can do it by yourself. But yes, that's the trick. And in UV maps, you will now have this UV map. You see a UV map object. So now if you will go back to the layout, you will be able to open a picture and maybe screenshot. I'm just not sure what picture. One sec, I will find something so I can test one. Mm-hmm. Okay, I selected a test texture. So in downloads, I will now have somewhere the test texture. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, it's appeared. You see, the only thing that this was black and white. So, but now you see how it's beautifully aligned, and I can show you the source picture. Yeah, here is with material. So this is how it must look or can look. So again, basically this method that I showed to you how to create UV map works only for flat objects, or when you want to project, basically when you want to wrap something with a texture. So sometimes it's not working, Yeah, like this. But for such elements, it works. And this is my source image. You see, it's black and white lines. So, and this is why it's in Blender, it's looks like this. So, but I mean, for myself, if, working with black and white, it's a cool way to keep aesthetics. Well, I'm not super strong in color bending or color blending, but here, yeah, and yeah, textures like this, I think they really improves landscape. So it's now really interesting in the details. And if I go from upside, I also see the cool pattern here. Yeah. So any more questions?
Actually, mine is open, but still the model is still loading.
Mm-hmm. You can ask the questions by email.
Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will try it in the morning because the internet is much faster, I guess.
Okay, yeah, I know in my flat where I have a fast internet, but because of the pandemic, sometimes I live in my country house, and there using hubs is a nightmare. I mean, there the internet connection is okay, but it's five times slower than I had in home. In home, it's like 100 megabits, but in my countryside, it's less than 20, and yeah, it's sometimes
actually here it's like 2 megabytes, 5 megabytes per second.
Really, 5 megabits per sec? 5 megabytes.
Yeah.
If megabytes, it's okay.
Yeah.
If megabytes, it's around, I think 15 megabits, so it's okay.
No, megabits, not gigabytes.
Megabits, 5 megabits.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
so
it will be slow.
Slower than the turtle.
Yeah, but in Iraq, is it possible to get a high-speed connection or?
Yeah, actually, it's the maximum speed connection is the slowest for you, and this is the problem, I guess. In Iraq, is the slowest than many countries. Just the 4G came recently this year, but still, I feel it's so slow. So when I will move to Switzerland, I guess it will be much better.
But this depends, really. I mean, in Europe, sometimes there are regions where you cannot find a good working Wi-Fi. I mean, that's I mean, when you're looking for fast Wi-Fi, the rule of thumb is as later the country gets connected to internet, as faster the connection. So my best experience was in Singapore, where I connected to the public Wi-Fi from a trade mall, and I needed a quick connection, and I was like, okay, let's live with this. But this was a connection like a 300 megabits per second, like 3 times faster than that I have at home. And this was a public Wi-Fi. I never seen in my office the Wi-Fi at this speed. So I was like, oh, wow, it was amazing. But in Europe, I never had such experience. Maybe in Switzerland it's different. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, 5 megabits. It's hard for. But you can keep your model small, and in this case, it will work. But if you can get better connection where you are, like maybe 20 will work. So I worked with a 20, 15 same, but 5 is no.
Yeah. I hope in the morning that I will do something. I can upload my model and do everything. I hope so.
Yeah, you can also, but yeah, it's still uploading. Maybe you can mail to me and I can upload, but still, I mean, you still need to upload it.
I can send you the model. It's by email. It can be somehow. I don't know.
I mean, if you have it uploaded somewhere, so I can help you to get it. And
I will try to upload it. I will try to upload it in Sketchfab, maybe.
No, you can upload it to Hubs and publish it, but in this case, it will be uploaded for you. I mean, the only case is if you can put it into a Google Drive folder, for example, or something like this, which can upload in background. So overnight it will be uploaded, and then you can send me the link, and I can upload it to Hubs and send you the remixable scene where you can edit it. But I'm sure in the morning will be fine. So
yeah, I hope
not
so. Yeah, it will be fine.
Yeah, it doesn't need a lot of speed. Okay. Any else question? Anyone else questions? Yeah. Okay. So we are having 3 hours in a row. So I believe you are tired a little bit. So again, see you the day after tomorrow on Wednesday. And we are starting 2 hours earlier from our official schedule. So at 4 in GMT plus 3. I will try to update the schedule on the website, and also I will send you the Zoom invite right now and update it in our Zoom account. And because I've seen that it's a lot of questions like about recording, I will also send this recording straight away because today you see it's live recorded, so it's already on YouTube. And by email, feel free to ask any questions, and because you will have tomorrow's day for yourself while you're preparing for presentation. You can also contact me, not by email, maybe in the chat. So I will send you my phone number, and by this phone number, you can contact me in WhatsApp or Telegram Messenger. So if you have some quick questions, you can ask me there as well, because email sometimes can be slow. Yeah, and I will try to support you while you're working on your models. And for those who didn't get your model exported from Rhina or generated in Rhina, I will ask Maria to provide me the file so I can share it with you. And also, Alexandra, maybe you can share your script as well by our email thread. You can put it there.
I uploaded in chat.
Yeah?
I can repeat it.
I see algorithm GH. I will download it, and I will send it as attachment in the mail as well. So because some people are not with us as a session. Okay, thank you. So yeah, we are finishing. If you have any more thoughts, feel free to ask or comment. Otherwise, see you the day after tomorrow. Bye. Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye, Barbara.